of refuge before we came and resettled in this country, America. Refugee population worldwide increases every day as a result of social and political wars. A refugee is a person who has been forced to leave her or his country because of different crises in their own country. And the United Nations has estimated that more than 70 million of people live as refugees. Currently, these numbers change. And as you have heard through the medias with the Ukraine, the number of population refugee in the worldwide has increased. Right now, we have over 100,000 million. 100,000 million. And the most population affected are women and children. And for sure, as you can see, me standing here, I am a survivor of war. I am a survivor of what has been going in my country or in Congo. Since 1989, women and children, particularly, are the most vulnerable population affected by atrocities in their home country and even in the country of refuge. I'm going to give an example of a country where I lived as a refugee, and this is Kenya, in Nairobi. Nairobi currently, they host over 500,000 of refugees, and these refugees are from different countries of Africa. 85% of the refugees in Kenya are women and children. I want to speak a little bit on the double vulnerability of a woman, refugee woman. Being a refugee and being a woman. If you know a little bit of the history in Africa, women, we have been pushed away and we have been underprivileged in so many different ways. We do not have a voice in many opportunities. So the refugee in general have been stigmatized and labeled as people who cannot perform in country of refuge. No employment for them, no education for children, no health care that can cover all the health issues for their children or for themselves. Research reveals that female displaced women have experienced life-threatening to death in country of refuge due to lack of proper health care support. And in my book, I shared stories of women who have been, they're disabled, but they cannot receive or get a proper health support in the country of refuge. And when I say country of refuge, it is not America or in Europe. It is the countries where they get refuge, for example, in African countries, before they resettled here in America. Refugee women have been stigmatized and labeled as people who cannot even given a voice to speak anywhere, especially when you're in a refugee camp. You are limited to do any kind of work that you want to do, even if you have some education, but you are not allowed to do it. And there are challenges that we have been going through, and we went through that, is that we have also culture shock and language barrier that have been also limiting us to perform and to do what we can do when we are in a country of refuge. United Nations, and this is a report of 1993, says the General Assembly of the United United Declaration of Violence Against Women define gender-based violence as an act of violence that results or likely to result in a physical and sexual mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of coercion of arbitrary deprivation and liberty, whether occurring in the public or private life. And this brings me back on what we went through as refugee women. Refugee women have gone through, and I'm sharing about refugee women because it's my experience of what I went through, and I will highlight through this PowerPoint, and I'm going to give you also my life experience. But generally, refugee women generally, they don't have a good security as refugees in the country of refuge. Young girls and young women are exposed to sexual abuse, sexual exploitation. Mothers are forced to give away their girls so that they can survive in the country of refuge. We have stories and stories of mothers who have been forced to exchange their girls so that they can survive where they are. And do you think that where is the security for refugees? Where is the security to protect this community that are vulnerable? I don't know how to explain this, but it has been a struggle and a life-threatening to women and girls specifically to be specific, that women and girls are really exposed to dangers, insecurity, and life-threatening. Young girls, we have stories of young girls getting pregnant before age because of the life experience that they have been going through. What are the 5 major effects of war on refugee women and girls? As I was mentioning before there, forced marriages and pregnancies, children become street beggars, health crisis and difficulty in accessing education. And I will explain more with my own example on this, the effects of war on refugee women and girls. Okay, this is some of the solutions that I wanted to highlight. And I love this part because that's what we have been trying to put together, different researchers and different scholars, and they have also bring out on this solution and shared. To build a more humanitarian system for the female displaced population, we need access to employment for them to survive in the country of refuge. Connection to different places, resources, institutions, and education to access for children. And access to social services is the core factor that influences refugee in the country of refuge. And I did a research on this, and it's one of the highest key factors that have been really a challenge to a refugee community in the country of refuge. They don't have social services accessibility. I want to go in my own story, and 26 years ago, or 2 decades ago, my country was in war, originally from Congo Democratic. And from that time, I was a young girl, and I couldn't understand what was going on as a young girl. We were forced to leave our country. We were forced to leave everything, our belonging, in the middle of the night. And we were told, tonight, they are going to come and kill you, so you have to leave. As a young girl, we didn't know what was going on, but my dad and my mom, as a parent, you don't have time to explain every details, and we were told we have to leave, and we left. We started living in different refugee camps from one country to another. I remember one of the places that we lived as a refugee, it was in Congo, Brazzaville. And that country, Congo, Brazzaville, it's a neighboring country from Congo, where I come from, and Congo, Brazzaville. The river is in between us. For us to even travel from that place to the Congo, Brazzaville was hectic. There was rape. There were a couple friends of us who were raped, women who were raped in between before we move and go travel, cross a border for us to go to the refugee camp where we were trying to go. But by the grace of God, I wasn't raped. But I thank God my family also is still alive, all of them. But I also cry for those who experience the most of the physical abuse. We have friends who have lost their parents, their family members during that time. A refugee life is not a life that I can wish any of you to experience. A refugee life is not a life that I can wish any parent to go through. It is not a life that I can wish any of you to experience on your age, even any age. A life of not knowing what will happen tomorrow. A life of not knowing what you will eat tomorrow. We lived a life of praying God, trusting in God that tomorrow we will be alive. Even having a bottle of water, one bottle of water, and sharing with the whole family. Sleeping on the floor, not on this beautiful floor, sharing the same blanket with your parent. The first refugee camp where we lived, it was a all big hall, and then parents will, excuse me to move a little bit so that you can see, parents will be on both corners and children will be in the middle. And then you cover yourself with one blanket. But again, we didn't know that we will live tomorrow. And sometimes, as young kids, you don't have clothing to change. You don't have shoes to change. You don't have any education. At that time, we were in a very rural place where there was no even school. We used to cry as young girls, when are we going to be in school? When are we going to have this opportunity? But, having parents alive, they helped us to overcome the situation. Now, getting to Kenya and Nairobi, where I spent the most time, and around 8 years, I got an opportunity to be there as a refugee, lived there as a refugee, and I was very excited to have an opportunity to go to school. And I thank God for churches and people, generous community people who helped us to even go to school there. But again, there was a challenge. As a refugee, you don't have access to everything that is needed for school. My parents couldn't pay for my tuition because he was a refugee. He couldn't work. He couldn't even pay for any of my siblings' education. But you know what? What you love, and if you truly love what you're doing, in one way or the other, God will help you to achieve your goal. So I loved education. So when I went to Nairobi Daystar University, I was able to start my 2 years. And then after 2 years, I had balances all the time. I couldn't afford to complete my tuition to a point the university started dropping me out from classroom. And they did drop me out finally. And I went home crying. And I could feel that's the end of my life. After a few weeks, one of my music teacher, called me back, and she said, Grace, you need to come back to school because you're going to lead 2 songs. We have visitors from America, and they have meetings here, and we have to lead devotion. And I say, Helen, I'm not going to come back to school. I'm no longer in the program. She insisted and came and picked me up from my mom's house. She said on the way, Grace, you're going to lead 2 songs. I said, okay. So we got to the school, and I led 2 songs. And when we finished leading 2 songs, 4 of the visitors, Americans who came to visit the university, they were drawing my face. Without knowing that, they were drawing one person, and that was me. So they started asking questions to our vice chancellor, the leader of the university. Who is this girl? He said, this is Grace Faraja Nkundabantu. She's a refugee here in Kenya. She's a very hardworking student. She's the missions coordinator of the university, and she does this and that, this and that. But unfortunately, we couldn't keep her in school because she couldn't complete the tuition. So they listened to him, and they said, a student who is a hard worker, and she's participating in the school activities, she deserves a full scholarship. You have taken advantage of her. And they paid my tuition for the rest of the years, and they paid all the balances that I had. When I called my dad and said, Dad, I've been given a scholarship, I was on tears of joy. As a refugee, I didn't have hope. I didn't have anywhere. My dad didn't have anywhere to turn on. My dad didn't even have any access to where he can even borrow money for me to complete my first degree. But I thank God that the gift in me that God gave me to share my talent right at the university gave me the opportunity to complete my first degree. You may have gifts in you, you may have talents in you, and that can be something that can help you bring out the person you want to be in your future. After I received that, I remember on my graduation day, I said, I will do the same to others. I will do the same to others, but I never knew how I would do it. In 2008, when I came in this country, the first thing I remembered, I said, thank you, God, for bringing me here in America. And it's my turn to give hope to my community. I started, my first job was using my languages, 6 languages, and doing interpretations in French, Swahili, Kinyarwanda, Lingala, at the courtroom, federal courtroom in New Hampshire. And I remember starting helping one girl in Kenya. Today, this girl, she's completing her university college education next year. And that's heaven for me. That's heaven for me, because I know that this girl will also one day help another girl. So today as we speak, we started a foundation called African Girls Hope Foundation. So this foundation is to empower education of girls in Africa. We have 165 girls orphaned by war. When I say orphaned by war, are kids who experience the killing of their parent. They witness the killing of their parent. I am a survivor of war, and I thank God my parents are still alive. But we have children, young kids, who experience the killing of their parents. And my heart is to help them so that they can have a bright future. They can have hope for tomorrow. As well as I received a scholarship or sponsorship through the generous missionaries who came from this country. Now, these generous support has been translated into 165 girls who are being sponsored with our foundation. What can you do when you're here? You are blessed. You are all blessed to have this beautiful building. We did not have this. You are blessed to have even fresh air in the classroom. We did not have that. But my hope is that as you go through your education, my hope is that your education is not going to be just for you, but you're going to be an answer or give hope to one or two girls or one or two to your communities. I'm sorry to focus on the girls, but you're here to represent your community. And the education that you are getting, it is not in vain. So when I came here, I did not stop with my first degree. I pushed myself. I said, America is a beautiful country that I can have access easily to education. And what I did with my education, my transcript, I had to evaluate my transcript through a program here in America, and I was able to start my master's. And after my master's, I was able to start my PhD, and I completed in 2020. From a refugee lifestyle to a master's, to a PhD, and now giving the same hope of a bright future to 165 children. What do you have to give? I know for sure you have something that you can give as a student. Even talking to one another, exchanging and giving a smile to one another. You might not know, that's a hope. I used to feel someone when they greet me when I was in Nairobi and give me a hug, I felt the best. I felt so relieved. Because as a refugee, we lived a life of fear, not trusting who is the right person to trust. But I thank God that I'm here and I can be the voice to those who cannot speak for themselves. And I know you can be that voice. My brother, you can be that voice to your family, to your community. Change begins with us. You do not wait for someone else to bring change in your community, but you can be the change for your community. And it starts in the family. You can be the change in your family. And my encouragement this afternoon is that be that change. Don't wait for another person to bring change. When I was a young girl as a refugee, I didn't know what would happen. And I thought maybe I will die. But since I'm still alive, my job is to do my best to give hope to one or two people. And I know you can do that too. You can do that too. You can be that hope. I grew up as a refugee, as a missionary kid. Before the war, my parents are missionaries until today. So we lived a life of moving from one place to another. And even when we lived in different refugee camps, one of the things that really my parents reinforced us to do is to learn the language. I was able to learn all the languages in every different places. Did I know that this language would be beneficial for me here in America? I did not. I couldn't know. But because I was able to learn the languages, when I came here, all different languages were useful for me to use it here in this country. So anything that you can learn, take advantage of it, because you don't know if one day that will be useful for your life. So I really thank you for coming, and I really want to thank you for listening to my story, but I would love to open for any questions that you may have. I love questions. And through questions, maybe I'll give more deep and deeper of what I went through. Thank you.
Who wants to raise their hands, I'll run the mic over to you. I have a quick question. So how many countries have you lived in?
So I lived in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. So we have two Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo, that's the country where I come from. And we have Congo, the Congo Republic, and that's where I started my refugee life. And then I lived there almost a year, and I left there and went to Rwanda. Rwanda, if you can remember the genocide of Rwanda, that's a reference. I lived there also as a refugee, and I left Rwanda, I went to Burundi. And Burundi is also one of the East African countries. And after Burundi, we went to Kenya. Yeah, 4 countries. Yeah, 4 countries. And all those 4 countries, they speak different languages.
And probably a few different languages in each country too. So
yeah, and different culture differences too.
if you were to give, I guess, concrete advice to someone living here in our situation, what is the best thing we can do to create an environment that's friendly and hospitable for refugees?
Be aware of your neighbor. Be aware of who lives near you or who is in your classroom. Get that, like to know where is this person from. Get to know each other or the story of one another. For example, I can ask where she's from. Where are you from? Kenya. She's from Kenya. So thank you. She's from Kenya. See, now I know she's from Kenya. And I would think maybe you are from Somali, because Somali, they dress and they cover themselves. So she's from Kenya. So the next thing I will do, I will ask, what's your story, or how did you come to America? Because I know for us from Africa, it's easy for America to ask our stories. And the same, even me now, I have that culture of asking, okay, where are you from? Are you from Utah? Or are you from Georgia? Or are you from Denver? All that. I want to know also the story of everyone, so that when you know a story of someone, you can know how to help or how to bring the awareness of the life experience of that person, or share a story of that person to bring that knowledge of different place or different community of your surrounding. Yeah. And like here in the university, it is very important to have international, let me say, club, or it's very important to have international community and have exchange on different topics. That way, you'll be able to have knowledge of different students that are here or community that are here. Question? Yes?
What kind of projects do you do at your foundation, and how do you prioritize what to do for the girls?
Good question. So she's asking what we prioritize in our foundation. Number one, we love all the girls to be in school, and we try our best our girls not to be dropped out. Because that life experience that I received wasn't good for me, and I don't want that to happen to any girl. So we try our best for all our kids to stay in school full time, and of course, and also have all the materials, education materials for them. And we have also other programs for mentorship, program for them, and training, special trainings for them, and vocational trainings. But having all of them in school and pay for their tuition and school materials is number one. Thank you.
like stand out in the circles with people who didn't look like you?
Good question. It's a struggle. And as you know, in Africa, it's so easy for me to know you are from Kikuyu tribe or you are from Luya tribe. Those are some of the tribes in Kenya. And in Congo, the same. It's easy for me to know, okay, this person is from another tribe that is not mine. This brings me an experience that I experienced when the war started in Congo, is that I was coming from school, and my friends, my classmates, that I was with them in the same class, and they started calling me names. And some of them will even throw stone on us, or they will just call us all this name. Go back to your country. You are not part of this country. Or you look like some name that I will not want to say loud here. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but standing and knowing that you have a voice and you know that you are from that place, you are from that country. And it was a struggle because I had to ask my dad all these questions. Why? Why are they calling us these names? And why? And where do we come from? So he was able to explain to us. And from that time, I used to stand up and say, you call me names, but I am from Congo, and I will stand with that. And the good thing is that you don't respond the same way, but you respond with positive. Because when you exchange words in a negative way, then that's a chaos. But for me, responding in a good way and confidently, knowing where you come from was the best. And that's how I happened to overcome that, the identity crisis. Yeah, with people that calling us with names. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Just raise your hand. I'll run the mic over.
Yes, she has a question.
Here you go. Do you have siblings? Do you have like brothers or sisters?
Yes, I do. We are 5.
Okay, yeah, so I was just gonna ask, like, how did you manage like family responsibilities and all that while you were in school, and like even today, like, do you support them and things like that?
Okay, good question. We are 5 in my family, and we are 3 here in America. I still have 2 siblings back in Kenya. My father is still there. My mother is still there, and we support them. And we are 3 here, so we all 3 of us work. But my father is a missionary, and he's a church planter. He plants churches in different areas. He has 15 churches in Kenya, in different places in Kenya, including Turkana. Turkana is a very, very rural place where, you know the place?
Yeah.
Yes, so he has churches there. So we are blessed to be 3 of us here in this country. And that's one of the ways that we have been also helping our family there. My younger sister, she's married. She is married there in Kenya. And my younger brother is still young and are still doing education. But we, the African family perspective, we do support each other. We do support a lot with education or even with food. Yeah, we do support one another. Mm-hmm.
I have a question about your foundation. I'm like, what would be your dream for growing the foundation in the future, and what kind of reach do you hope to grow this into?
I love that question. So my hope for my foundation is to have African Girls of Foundation in all the countries of Africa. So we have 54 countries in Africa. So we are currently working in Kenya and in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. So that's where we started. And you may ask me, why Congo and Kenya? I think the answer is that I studied Kenya and Congo because that's where my life experience, I experienced the most of my life experience there, and as an education and as a refugee, and what happened to me was in Congo, Kenya, although even other countries. But my hope is that African Girls Hope Foundation will reach to all the countries of Africa, 54 countries. And we cannot do it by ourselves. By the help of friends and communities or businesses, and I know that it's possible. It's possible.
Hi, sorry. What advice do you have for staying connected to your culture even when you're living in a foreign country?
Yes. I love this question because, as you see, I'm representing loving your culture is number one. And stay connected with the community of where you come from is also very good. And build a network of the community where you come from is also very good. So where I come from, in my tribe specifically, I am from the Banyamulenge tribe. Of some has been part of supporting our community. Is that we have a network of our community. We discuss about everything. We discuss about how to raise children in America. We discuss about how to share with our children our culture and where we come from, and even the experiences that we experienced before we came here. For example, my children, there were 3 of them were born in North Carolina, Boone, North Carolina. It's a small town. So they usually ask me, when I speak my English, they say, Mama, you don't know how to speak. You don't speak like this. And I will say, well, I remember I'm from Africa. And you are also from Africa. And they will refuse, no, I'm not from Africa. You are from Africa. So from that conversation, it brings to another level of conversation, telling them, although you are born here, but you are also from Africa because I'm from Africa, and I am your mother, and your father too is from Africa. So teaching our children and teaching our younger ones, even the university, even Boone, where I was, there's a Boone Appalachian State University. I used to have a college student, international student, in my house all the time. I'll make African food, and then we'll have discussion about Africa, our discussion of different topics. And by the time they leave the university and go back home, they will still have that feeling of knowing that they didn't lose everything from home. So staying connected and the networking helps a lot with keeping the cultural beliefs. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, what is your experience when you first came to America? Like, what was your first impression?
Thank you. I was expecting that question. So my first experience was falling down during snow. I was in New Hampshire. It was snowing, and that was my first culture shock because we don't have snow in Africa. But my second culture shock was speaking English. In Congo Democratic, we did not speak English. So when I landed in Kenya, that was the first thing I had to do. I sat down 3 months learning English in Kenya, and that was in 2002. That's when I started learning English, before I went to college. So when I came here, my English wasn't the same as the American English. And it was a struggle for me to communicate because when I spoke, many people would say, what? What? Can you repeat? And I thought, maybe my Kenya English wasn't good enough or what. So, but I came to learn that even in America here, there's different tonation of people from different places, like the Boone and Georgia or other places, they have their tonation. So it was a struggle. English language. And also, the dress code. The dress code was also different. And I couldn't, when it's wintertime, there's a way you dress up when it's wintertime. And with my African dresses like this, there's no way I can survive with this. So I had to learn everything. Literally, knowing how to put my boots. I didn't know about boots, that I have to use boots during wintertime. And then food. Food was also a huge change for me. We love food in Africa, although accessing food also is also a struggle, but here the food is different. The vegetable here is somewhat is different from where we lived, and also the texture of the food also is totally different because, for example, we don't have fridge. Many of the people in Africa don't have fridge. You can testify that. I never had any fridge as I grew up in my mom's house. So my first fridge was here in America, in the house. So having frozen food and cook it, and the texture was totally different. But in Africa, it was you go in the, you buy and then you cook it, finish, and that's it. So I wish I can take some of you to Africa so that you can experience that. Yeah, yes, go ahead.
What is your favorite like comfort food dish to make in America?
Oh, my comfort food in America. Rice. Are you asking the American food?
No, like your
okay.
just favorite comfort.
Yeah, rice I make it in different ways, and fried rice or pilau, rice, beans, and chicken. So we have African stores that have the farm chicken, and we love that one. It's very hard, and you have to cook it for hours. And spinach. Yeah, and that's one of the most, like regularly, that's what we cook the most. And fufu. For those who know fufu, Sam has been able to cook fufu, and he can make fufu now. It was a training from yesterday and today. Yeah, so fufu, it's a corn maize. Is it the same? It's a corn flour, and you just boil water and you mix it up, and then it becomes like mashed potatoes. That's a close reference of it. Yeah, but I don't know how to bake. We do not do desserts that much in Africa, to be honest. We didn't have desserts. So that's my one assignment that I need to learn, how to make also desserts. Yeah. She has a question.
So you mentioned that gaining employment is a huge barrier for these women, and I was wondering if there was any other contributing factors besides their education that contributed to hardships in gaining employment, and then how your program recipients overcame these hardships once they graduated.
Okay, first question. In all the refugee countries that I've lived, refugee community were not allowed, we didn't have any access to employment. But what our mothers had access to is to sell small, for example, tomatoes on the road, and onion, fresh vegetables, only that. And the reason why is that to have access to employment, it's a process. You have to be, first of all, a citizen of the country. As a refugee, there's no way they will allow a refugee person to work in the country. I tried all my best to use my language, and I was able to work part-time with the UNCR, the UN offices, doing translations and interpretations with my languages. That's because I had something that the country, the citizen, could not offer. Yes, and that's one of the ways that I survived also, being a refugee, using my languages. And the second question was?
How do your program recipients, or like the girls that you're helping now, how do they overcome these challenges and like gain employment in their communities?
So they don't work. The ages of the kids we're helping is from 6 years old to 18 years old. So they totally don't work. And they are also in school and in all school programs. Yeah, and what I think with your question that you asked before, the other factors, not only the employment, it also, for example, the health crisis, limited to accessibility for health. In my book, I did share more about how we have UN everywhere, UNHCR for refugees in all the countries where refugees are. But again, there's limitation on what they can give for health for the refugees. For example, I had an interview with one of the lady in Kenya who is a refugee from Congo, and she's a disabled, and she needed crutches, but UNHCR cannot provide that. So we have other humanitarian organizations in Kenya or around there in the country that they have to apply for them to, and then they have to be approved to be given that all the needs for their health and for the children. We have cases for example, in Kenya, where I know for sure, I can remember very well, pregnant women losing their babies because of not being taken to a proper hospital or a good hospital where they have professional doctors. So they have this card that they are being given for health care there, but it doesn't cover everything. So we have been experiencing that challenge of children dying just because of not having a proper health coverage or having professional doctors or people who are well trained in their health care. And because refugees have that limitation and they cannot access the other good hospitals. Yeah.
For the girls in your program, like with their health, like access, like how do you help them, like if they need any vaccines or like child checks, like stuff?
Come again, sorry.
Like for the girls, like in the foundation, does the foundation, is it only like schooling, or like would they also like cover like their vaccines or child checks and like dental, like things like that?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, we don't have yet the support to give them the health care with the children that we are supporting. But who knows? One day, maybe we'll have that opportunity to help all the children that we are helping and give them health coverage, a good one. I know Nairobi, where I can go and ask for health coverage for all our kids. Yeah, good question. You have a question?
We have time for maybe one more.
If you could bring to the United States one thing from your culture that you
Sorry.
if you could bring to the United States one thing from your culture that you miss or that you think might benefit this country, what would you bring?
Sorry, what did I bring? Sorry, I didn't hear everything.
If you could bring something from your culture that you miss or that you think we would all benefit from in the United States, what would you bring?
What can I bring for my country? It's the love of people. I love people. And I love connecting with other people. So that diversity of being with different people, it's one of the richest things that I've learned in my life, that knowing different people from different places, and it's the beauty for me. And because I know I will learn from you, you learn from me, and when we march together, that education, it brings out a beautiful thing or a hope for someone. Yeah.
What a great note to end on. Let's get another round of applause. For anyone that doesn't know already, there is pizza in the back. Help yourselves to whatever's there.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll take that from you.
Thank you.
And then I'll flip that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I'll work on getting that recording
Okay.
to you in just a moment.